I started thinking about this idea of the south and the north, and why do we always make the north the dominant thing. And then I saw a map that Al-Idrisi, the first map maker of the world, was Al-Idrisi, was a Moroccan who did a world map, and he put the south on the top and he put the north on the bottom. The European map makers actually took from his book, but they realized the significance of putting the south on the top. It put Africa over Europe. And so they actually flipped it over and made their maps with the north on the top. And interestingly enough, if you read in the book called The Venture of Islam, Hodgson's points this out, how he said it's so unfortunate that the Muslims don't recognize that they made the first maps and they put the south on the bottom, and they should go back to putting the south on the bottom, because it's a completely Eurocentric worldview that actually does not have historical foundation. And so we should make maps that have Africa, right, on the top, and then Europe on the bottom. And we say, I'm going down to Europe and up to Africa, right? So we have to say, I'm going up to Los Angeles and down to San Francisco, because in Arabic, you actually do say the south is up. In fact, they call southern Egypt Sa'id, which is upper Egypt. And northern Egypt is lower Egypt. Ihbitu Misra, go down to Egypt, right? And also in Libya, they say it as well. They say Nas'ad al-Qibla, we're going up south. Wanzil al-Bahr, we're going down to the ocean, which is in the north. So this is traditional cosmology. And don't think this is insignificant, the impact that seeing maps all your life with Africa on the bottom. Yeah. And then the other thing about a southern map, nothing's over Arabia. That's another thing about it. Look at a southern map, because I have one that was printed in Australia, because the Australians caught on to this. And they said, why should we be down under? And so they just turned it right side up, right? And they made their maps. I have a map from New Zealand, and it's really interesting to look at it. It actually puts things in a very interesting perspective. You start seeing things like how close Ireland is to Morocco, for instance, and how close Germany is to England. You realize how strong the Germanic ties, because you don't get that sense when you see a northernly dominant map. So it's very interesting.
شمس روحي وحي ربي جنتي وحياة قلبي فرحتي القرآن حبي نور دربي وأماني شمس روحي وحي ربي جنتي.
Science and civilization. Among other aspects of civilization, Islam taught humanity one very important faculty: science. Before Islam, pagan Arabs and other Middle Eastern peoples had little interest in the natural world. It was through the Quran that they were first taught to observe and ponder the universe, the earth, and its plants and animals. This is why a great scientific leap took place under Islamic civilization. Muslim scientists laid the foundations of astronomy, medicine, algebra, geometry, and other important branches of science. Muslim manuscripts of the era are full of diligent and careful works of scholarship. In fact, this Islamic legacy of science would be the basis of the European Renaissance. When Europe was still in the Dark Ages, Muslims were pioneers of science. And not only science, but also philosophy, art, architecture, urban welfare, and even standards of hygiene. If something went wrong in the Islamic world, this was because Muslims turned away from the sincerity, wisdom, and open-mindedness God teaches in the Quran. Today, although there are people who dramatically misrepresent it, Islam is the ultimate path to peace, civilization, and salvation. This path begins with the most fundamental truths. To have a firm belief in God, and to lead a life based on the noble morality He shows. Who could say anything better than someone who summons to God and acts rightly and says, "I am one of the Muslims"?